Hello Internet, and welcome to my review for Attack on Titan, episode 43. When we last left off, Eren had completely ousted King Fritz, along with the nobles, and fully usurped them, because they were more than willing to sacrifice half of humanity to protect their own asses. And then we found out that Eren was being chained up in some crystal place, to be continued. And so we open up right where we left off last week, with Eren still chained up as Historia walks up. And Historia starts talking about how everything Rod has done has been for the sake of humanity, even if it meant, killing Nick or going against the scouts. Rod is right. And so I'm not entirely sure what to take here. Either Rod has brainwashed Historia, or he's tricked her, or she actually believes in Rod's cause, and as a result, when Rod inevitably loses, and we get back to trying to take back Walmaria, Historia will be kind of at odds with the rest of the scouts, given her belief in Rod's goals. I'm not entirely sure what to take of that. But then, Rod and Historia touch Eren, which, as we find out later on in the episode, allows him some of his memories back that he had lost in the past. Including, so we see in a lot of scattered visions what appears to be his first Titan transformation. That we saw Grisha inject him with a syringe back in episode 2. We knew that was kind of how he became a Titan. Even if we only suspected it during season 1, the Ymir flashback in season 2 absolutely confirmed it. And so it seems like, both from this scene and from what we see later on in the episode, that Eren ate Grisha. That, like we see, Grisha injects Eren, and then Eren goes Titan, and then we see Grisha missing, and Eren holding his glasses. I think that's how it happens. It's all super, fast and, surreal, but I think that's what happens. And that's kind of one of the two big flashbacks of the episode. There are several, smaller flashbacks in the episode, but that's kind of one of the two big ones. But onto a less big flashback, we have Historia's interactions with Frieda, which at first causes some confusion, because Historia's whole thing was that she was so starved for attention as a child that even her mother, shoving her away was, the most beautiful thing in the world. And then we find out that, Frieda had memory-altering powers. So yeah, that's kind of bringing things back into what we learned in, I want to say, 41, about Eren's father's predictions about memory altering, which still seems very weird and out of nowhere, but it's a part of the world now, and I guess we're going to have to live with it. But after that, after we find out that Historia and Frieda knew each other, Historia asks Rod what happened to Frieda, where is she, and she's like, oh, he's dead, because when Walmaria fell, Grisha Jaeger showed up and ate her, and killed the rest of the race clan. So that further adds on to the Eren ate Grisha theory, because not only, because, Grisha ate Frieda and then gained Frieda's powers, but, we have what we can assume are, when we saw Eren, in the end of season 2, use the Titans to fight the Smiling Titan. That's kind of what I'm assuming the coordinate power that everyone's talking about is. But also, based on the vision Eren had last episode of himself as Frieda, I think definitely, Grisha ate Frieda and then gained Frieda's powers. And I think the only way that could have happened is if Eren, the only way that Eren could have the Frieda vision and have Frieda's powers is if he then ate Grisha. Which, never mind the fact that I still think the only way to become an intelligent Titan is to eat an intelligent Titan does not really make any sense. Whatever, we're living with that now. But yeah, it seems like Eren ate Grisha. That's my main theory. I'm not entirely sure what Grisha was after, what his plan was in all this, and I still don't have a single fucking clue what's in the damn basement. But that's just kind of what it seems like everything is leading up to right now. But then, after we have that whole flashback, that's the second big flashback I was talking about. We do get some more flashbacks later on, specifically about the Ackermanns that I'll bring up in a minute. But then we find out that Kenny's here, which I have some questions about. So, I had always figured either Kenny was acting independently of Rod, way back when Walmaria fell, and Kenny killed, Grisha's mistress. I'm not Grisha's mistress, Rod's mistress, Historia's mom. So I figured when that happened, they were, like, opposed to each other, or at least acting separately, or at least pretending not to be on the same side. But here, Historia's here. Historia watched Kenny kill her mom. So she should know that Kenny is the one who killed her mom. And she sees her dad, who she is trusting at the moment, working with her mom's murderer. So this is kind of why I'm thinking we've got some alarm bells going, some, like, brainwashing alarm bells going on. Because, like, or at least some, like, memory altering on Rod's part. Rod might just, like, erase the memory of Kenny killing her mom. Because, like, Historia should be a little bit concerned that, Kenny and Rod are on the same side, given what she's been through with Kenny 5 years ago. But that's really all we see of Historia, Rod, and, Eren this week. Because we then cut straight to Zachary, who is fucking weird! Like, when we first met him, you know, he admitted that he hated the nobles and the capital and all that shit. But, like, he has the main noble from last week tied up upside down with a funnel up his ass to, like, rectally feed him, you know? And he just is full-on bonkers. Like when he came across in the past, you know, his first appearance back with Eren's trial halfway through season 1, you know, he seemed fairly, like, stoic and, you know, willing to hear both sides of the who should have Eren debate. And then with, like, last episode, you know, when he first showed up, he seemed, you know, that same personality, and then when we saw him later on in the carriage with Erwin, you know, we saw a lot more hate in him than his original appearances suggested, but he still wasn't, like, full-on batshit crazy like he is here. And it just kind of doesn't really flow with the rest of the scene, you know? The rest of the episode. It's kind of, I mean, I've always felt more than a little uncomfortable with Titan's more than willingness to just torture, like, villains, you know, but earlier on in the season, the show seemed very happy to kind of condemn what its characters were doing. You know, we had the big scene when Levi and Hanji are torturing Sanes to find out about how to, like, about what exactly the government was after. We see, you know, Jean is like, are we fucking doing the right thing? And, you know, Armin has an existential crisis over, like, mostly painlessly killing a person, not even torturing her. And it kind of seemed like it was taking a stance that, like, it was kind of using the torture to show that our heroes weren't just black and white heroes, and that was nice. That was a cool thing it was doing. It was still made me a little bit uncomfortable, but, like, it was working, you know? But then Zachary's up here, gleefully torturing, I think Ariel is the noble's name? I don't remember exactly, but it's just kind of doesn't really flow with what the rest of the show was doing in the past few weeks. But then after that, we have Erwin and Pixis discussing, or mainly, like, reiterating, why Pixis sided with the revolution. You know, he already said last week, I'm siding with Erwin, not because I fully agree with Erwin. I agree with Erwin on enough things, and I think right now he's the best hope for humanity, because he would not abandon, you know, half of humanity getting eaten by Titans. And this scene is just him saying pretty much the exact same shit to Erwin. You know, actually he does say the exact same thing to Erwin. Again, despite Erwin being in the room last time. So besides really moving on with, I mean, sure, it sets up that Erwin and Pixis know all of the race secrets that we're finding out in the Crystal Cavern. It just kind of, it's not really that big a thing. You know, it's just kind of there, kind of filling time. But then we get to the last big scene of the episode as Levi's squad discusses Kenny and what the Ackermanns are. So first off, Levi asks Mikasa, you know, if he has any relation, if she has any relation to Kenny, and that and Mikasa mentions that the Ackerman family was apparently persecuted for some strange reason that I think we get kind of an answer to by the end of the episode, as was the Oriental clan, and that drove them both out to the mountains, and that's where Mikasa's parents met and married and had her. And then Levi asks Mikasa if she ever felt a moment where she had a sudden surge of power. And she flashes back to when she kills the slavers way back in episode 6, her flashback, her like first chronological appearance. And we get the flashback of her like having some kind of electric charge that actually really looks like a Titan shift, like the kind of electric special effect that Titan shifters get through her brain, and then we see her like foot crack the floor she's standing on from putting too much pressure on it. And when I watched that, 4 or 5 years ago when the show first came out, I always figured that was just kind of what's what I'm looking for, like a dramatization, maybe I don't know. I guess a metaphorical way to show her like killing intent. But it seems like there's actually a plot-related reason to her doing that. That like there's something about the Ackerman family that like allows her to have that power. Because we also find out by the end of the episode that I'm thinking by the end of the episode, Levi is Kenny's nephew. Because Kenny and the flashback with Kenny's grandpa mentions that like his sister was working at a brothel and got pregnant from a customer and she wanted to keep the baby. I'm assuming that's going to turn out to be Levi's mom. But yeah, that was a random little tidbit that I don't think we really needed. Which is kind of my thoughts on all the Ackerman stuff. We don't really need it. And yeah, there seems to be some kind of power the Ackermans have. I'm not quite sure what to take of that, but we do find out that the Ackermans used to be the guards for the king. I'm figuring that's the race king and not King Fritz. But like we don't quite know yet at all, really. But yeah. So we then find out that both the Ackermans and the Oriental clan were how was it? I think they were nobles. I know the Ackermans were kind of nobles because they worked with the king, and the Orientals, I think we find out, were also nobles. But I think it's that they opposed memory altering, and that's why they were persecuted so hardly, which led them to flee into the mountains. Also, with they both had their other like personal reasons to be persecuted, with the Ackermans having some weird ass superpower, and the Orientals being like not white. But yeah. So there's that. And then, we find out that Levi is Kenny's nephew, or probably, and then the gang gets to the chapel, and they're all about to burst into the chapel, to save Eren, and then the Kenny squad is all waiting for them, and then to be continued. That's where we leave off. So this week was a lot. We got a lot of shit, revealed in this one episode. We had, actual information about Grisha. Grisha popped up in episode 1 and 2, and then he's been kind of had theories about Grisha, what Grisha's up to, what's in the basement. But we saw Grisha again for the first time in 41 episodes over the course of 5 years. So that's neat, I guess. And then we have a hint that he might be eaten by Eren a long time ago. So that's cool, I guess. We found out more about Historia's past, and that she was not as lonely as she thought. We also I forgot to mention this one thing. In that Erwin Pix's scene, we also find out that the nobles are spewing all their secrets because they believe that once Eren is taken care of, and they have a Titan shifter who has Eren's abilities, that they can just go back and erase everyone's memories again. Which, alright, I guess. So we find that out. The nobles aren't quite as done as we kind of thought they were last week. And then we found out that there's more to the Ackermanns than meets the eye. And yeah, and that Levi is also an Ackerman. Like, I had heard the name Levi Ackerman around, just gotten that spoiled, you know. But I had always figured it was because, I had known that, Attack on Titan had a long gap, as y'all know. And I kind of got some information by assimilation, by, osmosis, you know. And so I knew that Levi was an Ackerman, or had the last name Ackerman, and then he was adopted by Kenny Ackerman. So I figured he just, took on the last name because his adopted, dad was that name. But no, he's, flesh and blood related to Mikasa. Admittedly, fairly distantly, but still. And so we had a lot of information, but something about it it felt kind of weird. You know, there was just so many big shifts that, anything is going to feel weird at that. But, you know, normally you have all these plot twists, one after another, and it just should feel more tense, I guess. The whole thing felt more like you were finding out information more than, you didn't really get to see the characters have these gigantic reactions to it. You know, everyone was like, oh yeah, Eren realizes that he might have killed his dad. And sure, he's gagged and bound and all, but, he's not exactly reacting in the way that I would expect him to, especially given that Eren's whole thing is he reacts so hard. He's just a big reactor guy. So I'm hoping when we get back to the action next week, because given by what we saw in the preview, it looks like, you know, next episode, the scouts are going to burst down the door to the crystal cavern, and they're going to, fight the shit out of, Kenny's group. I'm hoping when that comes back, the show can make itself seem less off. I still did enjoy this episode. It was a little wonky, I admit, but I think for the most part, it was pretty good. So I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the episode and the video. If you did, feel free to drop me a like, or subscribe, or whatever the fuck you want. I don't really care. And as always, people, keep kicking ass, and I'll see you in the future. Bye!